Ladies and gentlemen, it's that time of the week again. Yes, it's Wednesday, and this is episode number 90 of Material Issues. We are live. I'm Mark Hershberger of Pop Detective Records. Yes, I'm over here on the East Coast, where the balloon floated from the West Coast to the East Coast.
Oh, God.
It
Please.
came from generally my friend's area first, and of course, Mr. David Bash of the International Pop Overthrow Festival. David, as always, it's great to see you on a Wednesday night live on Material Issues. How you doing tonight, my
Great
friend?
to see you as well, Mark. I'm doing very well on a Wednesday afternoon in Reseda, California.
Afternoon. Yep.
This is the first really nice California day we've had in quite a while. This has been a cold winter for us, and I know I'm not going to elicit any sympathy from people
Me.
back east who were sitting in 11-degree weather last week, but it's about 75 today, and so I was sitting out in the back. I even made a little video and posted it on Facebook. But yeah, it's really nice, and it'll be nice again tomorrow. Then Friday, Rena and I fly back to Boston because we're going to be doing a celebration of life of her dad, who passed away a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
He was living in Phoenix at the time he died, but he's been cremated, and his ashes were sent back to Boston, which is where he grew up and where a lot of his family still is. So we're going to go back there, and it's not going to be a somber affair. I'm sure there'll be a lot of laughter and love, and yeah, it should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, well,
I'll get some record shopping.
Nice long life, and blessings to Rena and the family, and just as you said, celebrate the life, which is the way it should be.
Yeah, that's definitely how I want to go. No sad funerals for me, not at all. I refuse to accept that.
No, I think we should have a celebration for you before you go, David, and then we'll have
because that could happen anytime.
We'll load up all your albums and CDs and just bring them to my house. I'll take good care of them. We could do that next week if you want.
It's actually not a bad idea. On another subject, you were talking about Engelbert Humperdinck before.
Yes.
One thing I always wondered about was there a natural rivalry between Engelbert and Tom Jones back in the day? And I say that because, both of them, of course, attracted a lot of women, but they did it in a totally different way. I mean, Tom had that animalistic kind of Welsh, macho thing going on with a hairy chest and the voice and everything, while Engelbert was more of a suave, romantic kind of guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Candlelight dinner kind of guy. Tom would be grabbing the hair of the woman and pulling her into the bedroom, while Engelbert would be wooing her all night with words of love. So I always wondered if there was a rivalry, and one of the things that fortified my wonder over that was in the late 70s, they both made a comeback at the same time.
Yeah.
Engelbert had After the Loving, and Tom had Say You'll Stay Until Tomorrow.
Yeah.
Said, all right, not to be outdone, they weren't going to allow one of them to outdo the other. So I figured a friendly rivalry, not an angry one.
Yeah, but you don't hear that much about it. They neither one of them talks about a rivalry because they really were, outside of the crooners that kind of came before them, the Rat Pack and everything like that. They really were the two in that time period that were,
the two British men who just had, women throwing their underwear at them. So
I don't know. It's a good question. We'll have to get them both on this program to discuss this.
Yeah, why don't we do that?
Let's just get them on. That's all right. All right, we'll make some.
I always wondered if Billy Idol and Adam Ant were the Tom Jones and Engelbert Humperdinck of the early '80s. That's probably not quite as good a pairing, but
Hey, it all as Susan Slusser taught me last week. every era has things of the era and of the time.
Oh
And
yeah.
that's going to stick with me for forever now, because as much as I'm old school baseball and things, it's absolutely right. The people that are going in the hall for certain eras and certain time were of their time, and there's no reason to compare them to people 40, 50, 60, 70 years ago, because it was different. And we got somebody checking in, Brian from Denver.
Hey,
Nice to
Brian.
see
Good to
you.
see you as always.
Oh, I'm this era's Chet Huntley.
I guess I must be David Brinkley then, which is fine with me. I'll take it.
Oh, wonderful. Oh, this is all good. But yeah, who knows? I don't remember Engelbert's real name, but I got to look that stuff up.
Yeah, something very boring, I think. I
don't
don't know
remember.
why the name Morris Windsor is coming to my head. I don't think that's it, but it sounds like it should be his real name.
Morris Windsor. I think that was it. Yeah.
I've read it before. I don't remember. But anyway, well, we have a really cool guest on Material Issues today. We're so glad to have her. A lot of people listening or viewing the show are garage music fans of the 60s, and it's certainly a genre that's been comped more than almost any other. You've got the Pebble series, you've got highs in the mid 60s, you've got the psychedelic series of different scenes. Right. But one of the most fruitful scenes that people may not be aware of took place in Fort Worth, Texas. Not one of the bigger cities in the country, certainly, but per capita had an amazing scene. Just tons of bands in the mid '60s who were Beatles influenced, Stones influenced, just rock and roll, R&B influenced, and we're doing the garage thing, and some of them literally. Because that's why it was called garage music. Usually the kids would want to practice. They couldn't do it in the house because the parents wouldn't let them. So they had to go out in the garage, and that's where it was all forged. Some records were even recorded in garages.
Yeah.
But anyway, the scene was really happening. And of course, it was mostly males. But there was one female band in Fort Worth called the Kandy Kanes, and they were great. Everything I've heard, I loved. And the bass player and one of the singers is our guest today, and we're going to talk to her about that scene and how they fit in and just everything that the band did. And it should be a lot of fun. Would you please give a huge Material Issues welcome to Kandy Chase? Hey,
Hi,
Kandy.
guys.
And there she is.
Hi.
And there's a
No longer living in Fort
right
Worth,
next to her.
in Toluca Lake, California, about 15 miles from me, so very close.
Not far. Enjoying this beautiful weather.
It really is something.
Yeah.
And I still pick up a hint of Texas twang there. There's a little bit.
I hear a lot of it.
Well, you're going to hear a lot of it. I'm married to a Kentucky guy, for one thing. And my band out here, the Fort Worth West, a lot of us from Fort Worth, and we never met each other until we came out here. And they talk just like I do. So it's like we just talk like this.
And it's interesting, David. You know how a lot of the British bands, when they sing, you're like, I don't hear the accent. It's the same thing with Kandy.
Really?
No, you really don't.
No, you don't. I mean, you don't.
Unless people affect an accent, like the Cockney bands certainly did that when they were doing, the punk scene and mod scene. But most most artists, singers, bands, no matter where they were from, you couldn't necessarily pick up an accent when they sang.
No, that's true.
Isn't it funny? Yeah, it is funny. I find it interesting that you don't hear accents when people sing.
Yeah, one of my favorite bands of all time are not a well-known band. They're called the Sponge Tones, and they were from North Carolina, and they used to do kind of a Beatles thing. And they didn't really affect the accents too much, but when you would hear them talk, you couldn't believe that these Carolina accents were coming out of these guys because they sounded nothing like that when they sang.
I don't think you have enough time, in a song to add those twangs, and the long drawls. You just
Maybe that's it.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Interesting theory.
I thought about this long and hard.
No,
You know, and why doesn't my accent come out? Well, that's what I came up with. You only have so much time to sing a word.
Yeah. No, it's true. I find it interesting. Even all my bands on my label out of Norway and Sweden and whatnot, they sing in English, but they don't talk in between songs in their set in English. It's all in their native language. But when they sing, you don't really pick up an accent.
Well, like ABBA.
Yeah, just like ABBA.
Mm-hmm.
Think of that. I mean,
that was one of the most interesting things to me when I found out that these bands, I knew they sang in English. What I didn't realize was that the in-between banter was in their own language. And I said, I asked some of the people from Sweden, from Scandinavia in general, does that throw you off at all? And they said, oh, no, not at all. And I said, well, wouldn't you want to speak in English also? They said, no, that's too pretentious. People will start booing us off the stage because almost everyone in those countries is very fluent in English.
Oh, yeah.
So it's not like the crowd wouldn't understand, but they're just not. Yeah, they don't do it.
They just feel more comfortable.
Yeah.
I think.
Now, Kandy, you were.
Oh, she's gone.
Oh, she's gone.
Oh, there it is. Who do we have here?
This one is driving me crazy, so I had to pick her up.
Oh, I love that little Chi.
What's her name?
Sleepy. She really is.
What's her name?
She's gonna be in my arms. She'll be quiet. She doesn't bark.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, she's quiet.
What is her name, Kandy?
Tika.
Tika.
Oh.
Like chicken tikka masala.
Oh, now it's toothpaste like masala.
Yes.
Okay.
I don't know where that came from, but a friend of mine, Jan Brown, I don't know if you know her. She's a singer-songwriter out here, wrote a lot of hits for people in Nashville.
Oh.
Wow.
She has a rescue out in Palm Desert, I believe. And this was one of hers.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
As we talked yesterday, rescues are the best dogs, and you've got a lot of dogs. I've got one.
Well, that's good. That's good. I'll tell you what. I've told my daughter, you cannot give me any more dogs. She's the one that says, "Oh, look at this dog! Isn't it cute?" And it's mine. That's how they got to be 6 of them instead of 4 or 3.
I can't imagine.
But they like music.
Kandy, tell us about your indoctrination into music when you were a child. What were who were your influences?
Well, that's funny. You say indoctrination first. My daddy was a musician, and he was on the road with Glenn Miller Orchestra.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Ray McKinley. He played trombone, but he played bass too, upright bass. And every night he would play me to sleep on his upright bass.
Oh,
wow.
Cool.
So I really got a good, and he had small groups around town, and he would play. They would rehearse in our living room, not in the garage, in our living room. And that's how I started really loving music. I had one.
You were hearing the bass a lot in your head from a little child. I
was, yes.
My God, wow.
But it wasn't. That's not my first instrument.
Okay.
My first one was piano, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And I took it for quite a long time till I was about 13. And when I saw the Beatles, that was it. I said, "Oh, yeah, that's what I want to do. I want to play like Paul McCartney."
Well, let's elaborate on that a little bit, because we've talked to a lot of guests on our show, and so many of them of a certain age group said, "Yeah, when I saw the Beatles, I had to learn how to play guitar, learn how to play the drums, and B, it looked like a great way to pick up girls."
Well, yeah.
Right? So now on your side of the coin, you're like, I'm seeing the Beatles and that's what I want to do. But your motivation wasn't to pick up girls. Obviously there was a music side of thing, but what excited you about a male band like the Beatles that said, this is something I want to do?
That's a good question. I just thought that was the most amazing thing I've ever seen in my life.
Wow.
And I thought, oh my gosh, he really plays great bass. I love jazz, and my dad was a jazzer, but I would never want to play jazz upright bass. That's just not my thing. But when I saw Paul McCartney, I said, yeah, that's it,
Wow.
And my best girlfriend was sitting there watching with me. I said, and you're going to play drums,
Oh,
and she,
wow. Right then. Yeah.
yeah, I said, this is what we're going to do. And that's how it started. And then I started making phone calls to all the radio stations, record stores, music stores, anywhere I could, and ask if they knew of any guitar players, girl guitar players that they
Oh,
would
so you
play.
knew right then you wanted it to be a female, an all female band.
Well, I don't know why I did, but I just thought that that would be a really cool thing because nobody was doing it at the time. Not in Fort Worth anyway, so that's what I thought would be a really good idea to do.
But if you think about it, if you're 14 years old and you're a boy and you see the Beatles and
Hmm.
you're like, that's what I want to do. Well, of course, you're going to call your friends up who are all boys
Right.
and form a band. So
Yeah.
if you're a young woman and you're like, that's what I want to do, and you're sitting next to your girlfriend and you say, you play drums, well, who are you going to call up to do the guitars and whatnot? It's
Yeah.
probably going to be other girls.
Unless you don't necessarily know other girls who do it.
No, it was very hard to find. Very
Yeah.
hard to find musicians because there were none. At that time that were playing rock and roll.
Well,
They
yeah.
were playing all. One organist we auditioned played only in church. And that kind of thing. But luckily, I mean, we were so lucky because the first actual music store that I called said, yes, we have a girl right now that is a really good singer and plays guitar as well. So I called her up and she said, I'd be very interested in that.
Oh, wow.
And so we went to hear her sing. And I remember the first song she sang, it was Abilene. And I went, oh my God, she's a great singer. And she went on to make, she went to Tulsa and she's a star in Tulsa. She passed away, but she's a great singer. Great.
Wow.
She could do anything from Aretha to jazz to anything. Just amazing. So we lucked out there. And then I started saying, well, okay, now we're rehearsing, but we don't know how to play. None of us knew how to play. So we said, maybe we ought to go get a manager and somebody that could teach us. So we called the music stores. And the last music store I called, CNS Music, the guy said, well, come on out and let me hear you. And I went out there. We all went out and we played, and he taught us Memphis. That's the first song I ever learned how to play, was Memphis.
Chuck Berry.
He taught us that. And he said, well, I'll be interested in managing you guys. Sure. And I'll teach you how to play. And that was our manager all the time. His name was Mickey Moody. And he went on to, he worked for Huey Moe, and he was produced Freddie Fender,
Oh, wow.
Doug Somm, those guys.
Wow.
So he did he's the one that picked those songs for Columbia Records that we did, which were not us. Those are not us. We were R&B. We loved Aretha, Otis, Sam and Day, Wilson Pickett. Those were, and the Rascals and the Stones.
Yeah.
Those were our things, not that thing that we did on Columbia, but it turned out okay, and it got us notoriety, so I was really happy about that.
How did you get on Columbia? Because that's a big, big deal.
Well, we were on Mercury first, and
that's a big deal too.
Yeah.
If you think about all the garage records.
Well, an all-girl band for one thing. We were
Yeah.
cute, and young, and it was marketable at the time. So I think a lot of people, we were interested in that, but Columbia Records was the one we really wanted to go with. And our manager was the one that decided that. He was pretty much, and our parents, because our parents were all involved in this. We went on the road immediately. And the only way we could go on the road was have a chaperone, a tutor, so our parents went with us.
And who was the fourth person?
Okay, now we had 3 people and a manager, and he said, I know somebody that plays keyboards and sings really well, and she might be interested in it. and he brought her over to introduce us to her, and she was 21, like we were 13 and 14.
Whoa.
She was 21, and we're going, will this work out? Will she even want to be hanging around 13, 14-year-old kids?
Old lady.
I know, she was. We thought anyway, and it was so funny. And she sang and played so beautifully, and she was interested in working with the band. So we said, "Oh, let's do it." And that was such a good band with her. She was a great singer. She sang Ray Charles and all that kind of R&B stuff that was so good. And with Debbie, the other singer, they could just do anything. You know,
Plus, it couldn't hurt to have an older girl or woman give you advice about stuff.
Yeah, but she didn't really do that.
Uh-huh.
She was just off on her own. You know, she was really nice, but you know, she really didn't have much to say to us, except we were all into music. What we did when we went on the road, we got up and had our breakfast. We went out and rehearsed 5 hours a day, every day. Then we came home, ate dinner, got dressed, and went to work. And that's all we did for 3 years. We didn't care about anything else but music at that time.
And what? So let's backtrack a little bit. So, how old were you when you got the band together? You said she was 21, and the rest of you were in the 13, 14 age range.
Uh-huh.
Okay. And how long did it take you to actually learn to play and put
not any time at all, because it was amazing how much we picked up. You know, when you're young, I guess you just pick up things really quickly.
Yeah.
And I had already, you know, knew music. I'd already played piano, so I knew some music and chords. And my girlfriend, drummer friend, also played piano. And then of course Debbie, the lead singer, played guitar. So we didn't really not know music. We just didn't know songs.
Well, plus the girl you said, was that the girl that was sitting next to you? Said when you said you played drums?
Yes, that was the drummer, Mila.
If you've never played drums, it's not that easy just to get up and play drums.
I know, but she did a great job. She was amazing. It was like, this is what we want to do, and we had so much fun doing it, and we loved each other. And
oh my gosh,
yeah. She was Mickey Dolenz before Mickey Dolenz.
Yeah.
So, okay, now, were you playing drums? Okay. I'll learn them.
Okay, I'll do that.
Were you the Kandy Kanes right from the beginning?
We were, and I don't know how in the world that name came up, because I didn't name it.
Yeah,
somebody else did, and I can't remember. Maybe our manager might have. Mickey Moody might have.
Okay, that's a great name for a manager.
I would have never named it that, because the girls would have really been angry with me. You know,
right?
I'm the leader. I wasn't the leader. I was just the one that put it together. We were a group. We decided things together.
Yeah, you were not Dr. Hook. Because
no.
No. Mickey Moody is a great name for a manager. In fact, if a movie was ever done,
he was a great musician. He was a steel player.
Yeah,
and but a steel player, you know, which was really funny too. You know, teaching us R&B songs, and he was from Mingus, Texas, which was a little bitty old town out of nowhere. You know,
Mickey Moody from Mingus.
Yeah, Mickey Moody from Mingus.
Now, did you go on the road even before you were ensconced in the Fort Worth garage scene? Is this earlier?
I don't know what the garage scene is, because we really didn't do garage anything. We rehearsed in a studio 5 hours a day, you know, and we would go. This is a good story, because back then it was you could go to any club you wanted to, no matter how old you were. You just couldn't drink, you know, because they were called private clubs, right, and you could bring your own liquor. So our parents would drop us off at these bars, and we would go in and just listen to these great musicians play. And there were great ones. Ray Sharp was one of them. Delbert McClinton, you know, those guys. And Delbert would, I would sit there and wait, because he would let me sit in with him after the first set. He would do a first set, and then he'd let me come play. And that's how I learned to play R&B, was with him. He was my mentor, really.
And I'll tell you, it's amazing. Just, we've heard a lot of stories on this program, which is why we do it and why we're grateful for it. But in those times, it's something that with David and I talk about. You can't do it these days, as far as that kind of quick rise, and then let's just go get signed by Mercury or Columbia. We'll hand them a demo. We're fine. It doesn't happen like that anymore. But
It doesn't. No.
you are going to a private club and just sitting in with Delbert. That's how I learned the R&B. It's just like
learn to play. And you go to these clubs and Little Richard's playing, or you go Bob Wills. You go to Panther Hall and Bob Wills is playing. Of course we didn't like country at the time. I didn't like country till I came out here.
Yeah.
I never listened to country. I always listened to R&B. And then I came out here and I got so tired of playing, disco, that I said, somebody said, "You're country, aren't you?" Because of my accent. And I said, "Yeah, I'm country. Where take me? I'm I started playing it and I went, "This is wonderful music." It's unbelievably hard. You don't think country music is hard, but it really is hard, because you got to know exactly how long to hold the note, what to play. It's a lot different than R&B, because R&B you have a little more freedom, I think.
Yeah.
So
no, it must have really roiled everybody, all these musicians in Texas, to be pigeonholed as country. Must have been insulting back in the 60s.
Well, no, except for Bob Wills, and a lot of those guys. We weren't really. We were more just. Luckily, that's a melting pot. Fort Worth is a melting pot. Dallas was different. Dallas was more more rock and roll. We were more just melting. We did the R&B, the earthy stuff, the Delbert McClinton stuff, Bonnie and Delaney, that kind of stuff, and it was really, and of course the Cellar. You got to mention the Cellar with, and I don't know if you've heard about that through Tina Go-Go, but
that's where I heard. Okay,
through Tina Go-Go, and that was a place you go after hours. And that's where all these, like Bugs Henderson and just amazing players would go after hours and play, and you'd see the stars just come in and out of there. That was unbelievable about Fort Worth. Everybody loves Fort Worth for that reason.
And your parents taking you there, or you going there at a younger age, or was that when you were a little older?
When going where?
To some of these private clubs and things.
I was going at 13. 13, and I didn't have to go with parents or anything. Wow. We just went as a band, and we just sit there and watch all these great players play.
That would have if I was going to clubs like that where I came from up here in the Northeast, that would have destroyed me by about age 15.
We didn't want to do anything but play music. That's all we cared about. We weren't into drugs. We weren't into alcohol. We weren't into guys. Nothing. We just wanted to play music.
That's amazing.
I guess I lumped you in the garage scene because you were part of the Tina Go-Go documentary, which, by the way, for anyone listening, go to YouTube, type in Tina Go-Go and watch this. It's amazing how many bands were in Fort Worth doing what we call garage music and releasing records on completely independent labels. It could have been like the drugstore down the street just deciding to put a record out with their name on it. And of course, we all know how much of this stuff has been compiled. And Norton Records, of course, did the Tina Go-Go series with all these Fort Worth bands. But the Kandy Kanes were in that documentary, even though you say you're there. You go.
Oh yeah.
You say you're not, even though you say you're not garage music. But you were playing among those bands, I assume, which is why
we were playing with the Blue Notes and all those, the Jades, and they were a little bit older than us, so we really admired them for what they did. They were great bands. In fact, I'll show you this book. Have you seen that?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I have not. But
tells you all about Fort Worth bands, including Bruce Chanel, who we got to band
yes,
up.
I saw that.
The Kandy Kanes was his band for
Wow.
a long time, and and we got to play it with the Mamas and the Papas at Dallas Memorial Auditorium and places like that. And we backed up a lot of people that we forget about, the Shirelles, the real Shirelles, and people like that, because we knew their songs.
I just it blows my mind that you could do that at such a young age, and
It really is something.
and then hit the road. You guys toured outside of just the Fort Worth area. You came all the way up into the East Coast.
We sure did. We went East Coast. We went West Coast. We got an agent in Hollywood, McConkey artist, and she booked us all over the place. But they were bars, just all bars. So we weren't allowed to stay in the bars. We could play, but we had to stay out of the area, during the breaks and stuff like that.
That's still the case, Kandy, by the way. And if I book underage bands for my festival, they usually have to stay outside till it's their turn to play, and then they go play, and then unless it's an afternoon all ages show, but otherwise, as soon as they're done with their set, out they go.
Yeah, that's true. That's the way it works.
Now, I think it was on Tina Go-Go where you told a story about a club in Boston you played.
Oh yeah, that's a great
where there were.
Did I tell that story?
Shootings? Yeah. I'd love for you to briefly talk about that a little bit too.
Oh my gosh, I had no idea about Boston. We went from Portland, Oregon to Boston in 3 days.
Wow.
How we did it, I don't know. But we didn't sleep, I don't think, the whole time. And when we got to Boston, we got in there and we had no idea what we were getting into. The manager came out and says, okay, set up right now. You're supposed to be playing. You're running late. It was 7:00. We played from 7 till 2 in the morning, every morning. And then in the afternoons, we had to play from 5 to 9. I mean, on weekends or weekdays, something like that. We played so much. We were exhausted. And we're being from Texas. I loved hamburgers. I couldn't find a hamburger anywhere.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. And we were right on the what do you call that? We were the mafia area. What's the combat zone? It was the combat zone there. And we had we were there for 3 weeks. Every week we had a new manager. Somebody got killed every week. And finally we said, you know what, Mickey, we're scared to death. Let's get out of here. So what we had to do was tell the manager that was alive at the time that we were going to take our equipment and rehearse at home. And that night we packed up and we left and we didn't go back. It was so scary.
That's just so sad, though, that because of that those isolated incidents to Boston that you decided never to go back on the road again.
We went on the road. We just never went back to Boston.
Oh, never to Boston.
Yeah,
I got the feel. I'm sorry.
On the road, we played we went right from there to a strip joint in New Mexico.
Okay.
And
oh wow, okay.
Yeah. So it was a strip club, and we played. And then we had to leave, of course, at that time in New Mexico. And I said, I don't think these are right clubs for us. It just doesn't seem like the right thing to do. And we were going to school too at the same time. We had tutors and we had to take tests and stuff like that. And it was a rough time. Oh, and the one that got me the most was the last gig we did as the four people that we had. It was in St. Louis, and we played. The Cardinals won the World Series, and we were playing at the Gaslight Square, and it was the worst, seediest area there is, except East St. Louis, which the Kandy Kanes would go down there and play, and they loved us down there. But we were up here, and Chuck Berry came in, sat in with us, and played with us.
Wow!
And that night, our keyboard player wrote us a note and said, I'm leaving with some sax player from another club, and I'm not coming back. And we went, okay.
How old are you at this point?
We were 17. I was 17.
All right, so this is 1967 then.
Yeah. Yes. And it was my last year in high school. And I said, well, okay, I guess I'll try to find somebody else to play. And I said, before we do, let's go to the museum. Let's do something just fun before we go home. And we went to the museum. We got out and we were robbed. Everything was stolen. Our equipment,
oh my God,
everything was stolen. It was a really funny situation.
Well, John Kirby, our friend, just checked in. He was saying all those multi-hour playing times made your band a lot tighter.
Oh, it did.
And John's somebody who would know. He's been on the road with a lot of top bands. But
oh, really?
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, we had him as a guest a while ago. He's a British guy who was on the road with The Move and a lot of big bands in the UK in the late 60s. So he knows all about this.
Well, at this age, though, like 16, 17, and with the places you were playing and as much, were you enjoying yourself? Were you really still digging, doing what you're doing? Or did it become like,
No, we loved what we were doing. Okay. It was so much fun. I don't believe we liked the bars so much. I think what this band should have done was gone into concerts, because we had a little, record deal. We could have done that, but our manager kept us in the bars, and I don't know why he did that. He just did.
He was moody.
That kind of messed us up a little bit, I think, in that respect. But we didn't break up. We got another keyboard player and played quite a bit after that.
Kandy, let's go back to the Fort Worth scene, because that's what Tina Go-Go was all about. And I just can't believe, the bands were talking about having 300 to 500 people come every night, which you can't possibly have that anymore. It's just not, people just don't go out the way they did then for a variety of reasons. But that must have been just so amazing. And you were talking about the Elite. Were they the best band in the whole scene?
The Elite, the Jades, the Blue Notes, all three of those were amazing bands. They had always great singers. They had great players, and they did well. And they did well. And that bunch of Tina Go-Go bunch, yeah.
And did they always look as clean and neat as in their promo pictures?
Absolutely. Really? Even when they went to school, they looked like that.
Everyone wanted to be the Beatles or the Stones. Which bands were mostly? I mean, I'm sure there was a rivalry going on there. Like, we're Beatles guys and we're Stones guys. Do you remember which were which, and who did you want to emulate the most?
Of those bands?
Yeah,
I think I liked. Oh gosh, it's so hard to say because I really loved them all. But I think the Jades, because I think I had a crush on the lead singer. We all had crushes on somebody in each band, because we were young girls, and it was fun.
They were a little bit older than you, I guess.
They were a little bit older, and maybe a year older.
Okay, I mean, were any of the crushes reciprocated? To some of the?
No. Oh,
really?
No.
So the guys in those bands, they weren't interested in being with female musicians. They wanted the girls from the crowds.
Yes, that's
right. And they talk about that a lot in Tina Go-Go.
Yeah, that's it. They wanted the girls from the crowds. Now, one of my best friends was T-Bone Burnett.
Oh,
wow. Yeah.
T-Bone and I hung out a lot, So they probably thought I was dating him, but I wasn't. He was just one of my best friends, So nobody really approached me because T-Bone was always with me.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Because I was going to ask you, I mean, did a female band have male groupies the way the male bands had female groupies?
I don't think T-Bone was a groupie. But
no, I don't mean that. I mean like crowds.
If you look at the Kandy Kanes, I mean, you were attractive young women up on stage getting attention. And as you said, the guys who were playing in the bands were doing
Uh-huh.
it. They were looking at the girls down in the crowd to pull them. Did you have the opposite effect? And did you have guys
No.
from the crowd trying to hit on the Kandy Kanes?
Well, not in Fort Worth, but
Okay.
when we traveled, like we played a lot of Army, Air Force bases, and the kids. I mean, the soldiers were just as young as we were, just
Yeah.
about. So they would write us, and I still have them to this day. All these love notes, and
Oh,
they're
wow.
so cute. I mean, they're just so sweet. With, they'd write us poems, and then they would.
Wow.
It was what they wrote was just so darling, so innocent and so sweet.
Kandy, that sounds like a book right there. Just a book that you could write that says best wishes from the Kandy Kanes, and it would just be all stories of letters and things that you got. That would
Actually be really awesome. Yeah.
that'd be an
Yeah.
awesome book. Yeah.
Well, I've got a lot of them. I kept a lot of them.
Yeah.
So it was just,
Fascinating.
yeah,
really-
it was, and that's where we
That's
got our
really cool.
attention, and we really got a lot of attention that way.
So it wasn't the same as with the boys, where girls were coming backstage and whatever, but it wasn't quite like
No,
that.
they never did that.
Wow.
I don't know if they're shy or what. Maybe they never. I think they were just shy.
Well, you also had
Okay.
chaperones and you had people around you, and you went
That's
on
right.
stage and you played and you went off stage. And it's not like, I can remember going out when I was young and seeing bands that had female lead singer or whatnot, and they would leave the stage and you had no clue about how to access them at that point.
That's true, especially if you're going backstage.
Yeah.
You can get back there. Even if you went up front and talked to them, talk to the tables. I think they were a little shy to do that, even approach you for that. But
Also, I think there was never really a script for guys to behave that way. I mean, it was sort of
no, it
expected
was
of the
totally.
girls.
They didn't know what to do.
They
You're
didn't know what
right.
to do.
You're right.
That's what I
Exactly.
think it's it. Yeah, they just didn't know what to. And it wasn't like you had a road manager grabbing a guy from the front saying,
Yeah.
"The band wants you."
Yeah.
Tell us about the Battle of the Bands that you guys were in, along with those, all the other male bands in Fort Worth. What was that like?
Well, okay, I'll tell you about. Well, I got one story first. I want to tell you that is
Okay.
just. I don't know if you've heard this one before. You might have. We were in town, and we had the best equipment of anybody. We had the top-notch stuff. And I got a call from some guy with a British accent and said, "I'm a promoter, and I'm bringing over 2 bands to Fort Worth, and I was wondering if we could use your equipment. If we do, you can have front row seats." And I went, "Sure, why not? What have we got to do?" So we took our equipment, we put it up on stage, we set it up for them, did all that, and then we went back. And when time to play, when it was time for them to play, we came back in, and there was about 45 people. Nope, not a whole lot of people there. And the first band came out, and I said, "Oh, that's great. They're really a good band." And then and I said, "I think they're going to make it." And then the next band came out, and I said, "I know these guys are going to make it." And the first band was Jeff Beck and somebody. I can't remember what was the band he was in.
The Yardbirds?
Yardbirds. It was the Yardbirds. And the other one was Mick Jagger and the Stones.
Wow.
Yeah.
So this is before people knew
right
about
here in
them.
front of them, like that. And I was going, "Oh my God, they're using our equipment."
And these guys might make it.
Make it.
Now, you had not heard of either of them at that point?
No, this is their first tour. Their
Wow.
first tour. Never been to the States.
Oh my God.
Never heard of them at all. And I said, "Man, they're great." Okay,
And if
now
And if you would still have that equipment today, you'd be very wealthy, right?
Oh, I know it. I know. And I've got a lot of bases, but I don't have that bass that I had then, unfortunately.
Man.
But anyway, now the Tina Go-Go thing, I mean, not the Tina Go-Go, the Battle of the Bands. We were always in that, but we never won because we didn't have enough people voting for us. It was always for the Blue Notes, the Jades, and the Elite. They always won those. And they took turns winning them. So it was, and we didn't care. We just wanted to play, And so we didn't win anything.
And this is already after Columbia Records had released a single of yours?
No, this was before.
Oh, okay, that's what I
Columbia
thought.
Records was when we were on the road.
Oh, okay.
And we started getting a lot of attention from.
Was it just the one single, or were there more?
No, that was the only single.
Why were there not more? Do you know?
I have no idea. I think the band finally broke up because I got so tired of trying to put it back together again. It was like Humpty Dumpty. And so, after a while, you can't find a lot of you couldn't then. Nowadays, you can find a lot of great girl musicians.
Sure. Yeah.
But it was really hard back then to find them.
I don't know if you're aware of this, but there are a lot of what they call girls in the garage compilations out there.
No.
About 8 or 9 CDs worth of female acts from all over the U.S. and maybe a few from outside the U.S., but mostly the U.S.
And they're young now, or they were young then?
No, they were young then.
Oh.
I mean, there are plenty of bands. Yeah, there are plenty of all-female bands now that are doing, all kinds of different music. But
right, exactly.
In the 60s, there were quite a few, maybe not on Fort Worth, but all around the U.S. And they have been compiled. I'll send you a link to these CDs and LPs for that matter, and vinyl for that matter.
Oh, that'd be great. Yeah, do that, because I'd love to hear them. We did meet a few of the girls, and we did sub for some. There was one topless band. I can't remember the name of the topless band. And they would always end up in jail, and we'd always sub for them wherever they were. Of course, we didn't go topless, but
probably a good move not to.
Yeah, probably a good move.
It wouldn't be a good thing.
That's awesome. A topless band that you subbed for.
And the Spelts, which they're called something else now, the Spelts, and they're getting a resurgence now. So they're doing really well. And so we did meet few. Fanny.
Fanny, yes.
Wow, yeah.
Those bands.
So you met them a little bit later then, because they weren't until.
No, we did. We met them later.
But yeah, they
kind
of
a little bit younger than we were.
So the Kandy Kanes finished their career at what point? 1960.
In 67, we
67.
finally decided we would just call it, because it was just too hard.
And what did you do after that? What did
I joined a band called the Sound Circus, and it was a band from Oklahoma that came to Fort Worth and stayed and lived in Fort Worth, and we played around town, and we did a lot of stuff out here in LA and Vegas. And I finally said, I don't want to do this anymore. I went to college. I went back to college, studied big band and and upright bass and that kind of thing. I went to school at North Texas State. Then I came out here, and that's when I really started working a lot. I started playing with Gary Lewis and the Playboys.
Oh wow!
Soul Train Review. I did that, and quite a Filthy McNasties. I played in his band, Filthy McNasty. I don't know if you know those guys.
I have heard of them. Yeah.
It used to be Filthy McNasties, then the Central, I believe, and the Viper Room.
Oh, wow.
That's where we were. And then from then on, I played the Forum with Smokey Robinson and that kind of stuff. Love that. But nothing's better than the teenage era, when it was so much fun and so free, and the music was so diverse and wonderful. You could play any style in Fort Worth. You could go to any club and play any style. Everybody just loved music, back then.
Was there a strong rivalry between the Fort Worth scene and the Dallas scene?
Yes, there really was. Nobody from Dallas was welcome in Fort Worth, and nobody in Fort Worth was welcome in Dallas. And we didn't like their music, and they didn't like ours.
I mean, the Fort Worth scene was a little bit more raw, and the Dallas scene a little more polished. Is that right?
That's right. You have it down. Yeah.
Dallas had bands like the Five Americans, who I love.
I was just going to say, yes.
And maybe my favorite A and B side of any record, believe it or not, is by the Novas, who I'm sure you know or know of.
Yes, yes, I know.
And It's Time and William Jr., which is a record I'm still trying to find in my collection. I know David Denard from the Novas, and he doesn't have an extra one, unfortunately. It's very, very rare, but man, was it good. But I mean, I love both styles, but I guess I'm a little bit more into the polished stuff, which is why I love the Columbia single that you did. I'm gonna have to find it now.
Oh yeah, I looked it up, and they do have it for sale in different places. I bought a few of them, just so I'd have them for my collection in case my granddaughter ever wanted to see it.
Oh yeah.
She's not interested in that.
Are there any
Dua Lipa? Can you do Dua Lipa?
Yeah.
Do you have any songs in the can? I mean, like stuff recorded, never released?
Yes, I have a lot, and I love Cajun Zydeco, the New Orleans blues, R&B stuff. So I've been writing a lot. I've been working with a group called the Nervous Brothers, and we do nothing but that with horns, and it's just beautiful stuff. And I've got that in the can. I'm working on that right now with Eddie Betos and my husband, Craig Stahl. He and I write together a lot, and we're producing that now. And hopefully it'll come out soon, But it's a hard one because it's not something that I'm not from there. But I think that Fort Worth has a lot in common with New Orleans. That's because it's a kind of a sloppy R&B thing that I really like, and so I think that I can make it work. But it's just great music, just all over.
Tell everybody about Texas Moon.
Yeah.
What about Texas Moon?
Tell our audience about the record.
The record, not the song.
The album.
The album Texas Moon that you released a couple years ago. Yeah, I didn't know anything about it until.
Well, it's compiled of a lot of things I had written over the years, and I just thought, well, it would be a real nice thing to do a country thing because my voice lends itself to country rather than anything else, actually. And I said, well, I'll just, let me just finish this thing up and see what happens with it because it's something that I love. It's dear to my heart. And I just love Texas. Being from Texas, I love it. I love LA. It's great, but it's not home to me. Texas is home, and I can relate to it more. And so I tried to write songs that are from my heart and from Texas, and that's what. And a little New Orleans in there too.
But I just listened to the whole thing yesterday about twice. One of the times walking the dog and everything, and it is just a very beautiful, melancholy country album. Really, really well done, and your voice is beautiful. And
thank you.
I didn't know anything about it until I started doing some more research on post Kandy Kanes stuff, and surprised that there was a Texas Moon CD from a couple years ago. And
I just decided to do that. I said, well, why not? I'm a songwriter. Let's get it out there. I mean, I write a lot for a lot of other people, and I enjoy doing that. But I thought, well, I can do this. Let's just do this and get it out,
Do you ever put a band together and play it live?
I've never done a live version of this. My Fort Worth West band does a lot of those songs. And we do them, but out here nobody wants to hear originals. They want to hear mostly.
Tell me about it.
You can't find a place to do that kind of stuff, and you can't find a place to do anything anymore. Really, it's pretty slow out here right now. But after the pandemic, it just kind of killed the music scene. So we're kind of stuck right now in a slow pace.
Well, if you decide to do it live, I can find a place for you to play.
Okay, you got it.
I mean, if you're looking for a nice place to play, I can do that. I mean, it's not going to be the Troubadour, but it'll be.
Oh, nice that's fine. The Troubadour's too small.
Oh, is that right?
Oh,
I don't know if I can top.
I'm dreaming. I'm just dreaming.
I know. That's great.
How often do you get back to Texas?
I go back every year. My family's there. My brother and my sister and their family's there, and so I go back every year. And my niece is getting married in April, so I'm going to go back in April.
Oh, nice.
Now, you said you love burgers, so are you a big Whataburger fan?
No, actually, I don't eat meat anymore.
Oh, you don't?
I've been in LA too long. I couldn't eat meat. I could eat with chicken, beef, and anything that has eyeballs.
Yeah, you've gone completely LA. All right.
Yeah, I'm in LA now. Yeah, I go back to Texas and they laugh at me. You know. I go,
Yeah, it's got to be torture going back to Texas, just walking down the street and smelling all the meat grilling.
Oh, that barbecue! I miss
barbecue.
Oh, they got great barbecue.
Food.
Yeah.
That's something LA does not have.
Yeah.
Unless you go down to East LA, and you don't want to go there. Oh, somebody says I love Whataburger.
Yeah, my friends indoctrinated it to me last time I was in Arlington, and
Yeah.
I'm glad I experienced it once. I'll put it that way.
Well, they're okay, but I think Kincaid's, the smaller ones, smaller places around have unbelievable burgers, and then they have fried okra to go with it instead of French fries and stuff like that. Yeah.
Well, it's so funny, Kandy. When we were talking yesterday, but you were wondering whether we could fill up a whole hour. Didn't I tell you that an hour is going to go by in a blink of an eye?
Yes, and I went, oh my God, what am I going to say? I can't talk for a whole hour.
Well,
yeah, you can.
And you can, and you did, and it's been absolutely fascinating. As our friend John Kirby just posted that he's loving this lady, fascinating, and it's absolutely true. Now Gary's checking in on Kincaid.
It's a great burger and a lot of history.
Gary's he's a Texas guy. The base you have over there.
Which one? I've got an upright, and I've got.
Well, I see the electric bass there.
Yeah, that's the Fender Jazz. I've been playing a lot of Fender Jazz bass, but I love my P bass too.
Is this Fender from back in the 60s, or is it?
Yeah.
Oh, it is.
That is, and I've got another one. I've got one that's a 58, something like that. It's not, but I couldn't get a Fender bass back then because they weren't double cutaway, and I'm left-handed, so it's really hard to find left-handed basses.
All right, so you didn't play on Kandy Kanes songs with this bass then?
No, I had an Epiphone double cutaway that I played because then I could get up on the neck and play. Not that I did, but I could if I wanted to. Otherwise, it would kind of restrict me, so I couldn't do that.
Yeah, right, John. Worth a fortune, too.
You're right.
Well, yeah, Kandy, thank you so much for spending this hour with us. We had
It was a blast, guys. It's so nice to meet you, and I'll be talking to you, David. Maybe we'll figure out a way to get the album played somewhere.
That would be great.
I'll get my band together.
And you guys live close to each other. You can get together and have a veggie burger.
Right? Sure, why not?
You wouldn't eat one of those, would you?
Yes, I would. You and your husband are welcome to our house anytime.
And you here too. And you too, Mark, when you come out. Okay?
That's a guarantee. That's a guarantee.
All right. We'll play some stuff for you that's in the can.
I'd love it.
Right.
I would love to hear it. It'd be wonderful. Well, Kandy, have a wonderful rest of your evening. Stay happy, stay healthy, stay grateful. Keep us updated on everything going on in your life, and we thank you. This has been an absolute,
and you as well.
An absolute.
Thank you so much, Kandy.
Okay, bye, guys.
Bye.
Oh, that was fun.
There it is, David.
Just more great examples of how the scene was back then and the things you could do. I mean, having done IPO for so many years, I mean, we had so many talented bands who I only wish could have been around, could be part of a scene like that where label people were always around, or you could just march into a record company and say, here's our demo, sign us. Because many of them would have been signed. There's no doubt about it. The
real quick,
climate of music was like it. If the music climate was like it was in the '60s, there's no doubt about it. And
thanks,
thank
Tim.
you, Tim.
Yeah, really
And it's just so unfortunate. And as Kandy said, it's not just in LA that people don't want to see original live music anymore. It's everywhere, and it's really sad, and it makes it a big challenge for me and for every band who tries to get gigs. It's just plain wrong. There's a lot of
and
talent
think about it this way as well. I was just thinking about that today. She's got a story and she's got a history from all of these things that could take place because there were places to play, because people went out by 300, 400, 500 people in a club.
Amazing.
And if we don't have that anymore, if we don't have that kind of a scene, and we don't have people going out and seeing bands and clubs, and that's all things that are not going to be here to be talked about 20 years from now, 30 years from now. You won't have that type of history. And that's a little bit disconcerting and sad. And you wish it wasn't.
Yeah, and it is. And I realized that, everybody was young in that scene. I mean, the people who were coming to the shows were teenagers or, at oldest young adults. And I realized that, the talented pop bands that we're showcasing are not. But I mean, think about today's kids. Are they going out to see any live original music? Virtually not.
Yeah.
If they're going out, they're going to dance clubs. I mean, if they're going out to see music at all, and seeing tribute bands and whatever, it's I don't know. We need to talk to some teenagers and see what the heck they're doing for outside entertainment. But yeah.
No, thank you, John. We appreciate you checking in.
I'm guessing she's slightly younger than you. Yeah, slightly, I would imagine, but not by much.
Not by too much.
Kandy Kanes were part of they were young, but they were part of the mid '60s music scene in Fort Worth.
I do want to pop this up. I forgot to put up what she was talking about it. This is the cover for her CD, or last album, LP, Candy Chase, Texas Moon. And she said you could find her on Facebook, and the CD is available, Amazon, CD Baby. But she said if you find her on Facebook, you go out there and look for Candy Chase and you drop her a message, she'd be happy to figure out how to get you a copy of the CD. So,
but John Kirby, if you're still listening, to paraphrase the Ed Sullivan Show, hands off. She's married.
Yeah. Hands off, girls. She's married, but
right. If I were single and she wasn't married, I'd have beaten you to her anyway. She's closer. I had the advantage. No, but, she's a great lady.
Yeah, wonderful lady, wonderful talk we just had here. Really, really great guest again. I mean, I that's what I love about Material Issues. We're getting some of the coolest stories and coolest guests. It's just
coolest guests, and that's a perfect segue into who we have next week, and who we have the next few weeks, but especially the next two for music fans.
Yeah,
it doesn't get too much better than this. So we'll let you take it away for the next one.
Well, I'm just going to play this quick little promo. It was just done this afternoon. This is who we got coming up next week. Check this out, everybody.
Hi, folks. It's Dave Gregory here from lately of XTC and Big Train and Tin Spirits and a whole host of other people. And I'm delighted to be joining you all for a little chitter chat next week on Mark's program. I'm looking forward to it. Hope you'll join us.
There you go.
That's right.
Dave Gregory, XTC. He was the guitarist for all those great albums, and it's just it's going to be a good one. So mark it on your calendar. Next Wednesday, 6 p.m. Eastern Time, Material Issues Live. Dave Gregory of XTC.
Yeah, that was an amazing coup, Mark. Thank you.
Well, John says he's misjudged.
No, you're not. Wow, Dave Gregory.
Yeah.
And then the following week, we have another icon in a slightly different realm of music. But speaking of female bands, and speaking of bass players for that matter, it fits both. We have next week the former bass player, and
2 weeks from now, yeah.
2 weeks from now, rather, on March 1st, and former bass player, present lawyer, present Jeopardy champion. And yeah, just a great all-around gal. We've got Jackie Fox from the Runaways on March 1st.
Holy cow. Look at that. Look at that back-to-back 2 weeks here.
I know, it's pretty insane.
Dave Gregory and Jackie Fox.
And believe me, Jackie Fox has some stories. Whether or not she wants to talk about them all, we don't know. But she's got some stuff. And we'll not just talk about the Runaways, but we'll talk about what she's been doing and her time on Jeopardy, which, yeah, I mean, she is a really, really smart lady. And I have a feeling people knew that during the Runaways days, but she really got to show it all off on Jeopardy. And I think those episodes are still up on YouTube or somewhere online. You can find them. But yeah, I don't remember how many times she won in a row, but several.
Yeah.
So that'll be really great. The following week, we actually have a mom of a couple of musicians. You may know the band Wednesday Week, who had among their members Christy and Kelly Callan. Great band. They still occasionally play, not too often. Both of them are doing other projects now. But their mom was an actress of some repute. She was a guest star on pretty much everything in the 70s and 80s. She did star on a couple of series, and she's actually now a guest on the new series on Peacock called Poker Face. Right. She's 87 now, but she's sharp as a tack, can still act. Another great lady, Kay Callan.
That's going to be fun.
And yeah, her name is Kay, no period.
Yeah.
If you friend her on Facebook, you'll see that she goes under Kay, no period. So, but yeah, somebody loves the letter K because her daughters are Christy and Kelly.
Yeah.
So you should look her up. Look up Kay Callan on YouTube and see her resume. It's pretty extensive. And she was on it's like she's one of those people you'd see on those shows and you say, well, I don't know her name, but I know I've seen her before. And that actually happened. The funny thing, I was somebody posted on Facebook about a show called Sarah, I believe it was called Sarah from the mid 80s, which starred a pre-famed Gina Davis.
Oh, wow.
This may have even been before Buffalo Bill, which is one of my favorite shows ever. I don't know if you've seen it.
I've seen it, yeah.
It was very irreverent with Dabney Coleman, and I love it. Gina Davis was one of the stars. And anyway, she was on this, and the woman playing her mom was Kay Callan.
Wow. Okay.
And I remember, and at this point, I knew who she was because she had come to some IPO shows that her daughters played, and I'd met her briefly. But I recognized. I said, "Wow, okay, she was on that." That's kind of what prompted me to contact her and see if she wanted to be a guest.
Which is going to be awesome. It's just awesome.
I'm sure she'll have. Yeah, I mean, the internet's such a great thing. Without it, we wouldn't have 90% of our guests, I'm sure. So, thank God for that. But yeah, she'll be fun. She'll have story. I mean, she must have met so many people in the business.
Incredible.
I'm sure she has a lot of behind the scenes stuff that maybe she'll share, maybe she won't. Who knows? But we'll give it a try.
And of course, we always have irons in the fire, so you never know. But that's why I tell everybody you got to make sure you join us, join the group on Facebook and subscribe over on YouTube, materialissues.com, because then you'll get a little notification a day or two before the show that who's going to be on. You can share it and tell all your friends. So we have more people checking in with these great guests, which is absolutely awesome. And, David, we just did show number 90.
Yeah.
By the time the next 3 great shows are finished, we'll have completed 93 shows. Have we thought about what we're going to do for the big 100?
Well, first of all, let's figure out what date it is.
I don't know what date it is.
It may very well be when I'm in Chicago. And I remember the only Material Issues episode I missed was when I was in Chicago. The timing didn't work out too well with when I had to do my show, and I think I was also a bit sick. So yeah, I don't know, but we'll figure it out.
We'll have to do something. Yeah.
Maybe we should find somebody, really huge, or maybe we should just do it ourselves and maybe talk about some of the best moments we had on material issues. Maybe we could, what might be a great idea, just spitballing here, taking some of the best clips of the first 99 or and talk about them and show them.
Yeah.
That might be a great idea for 100. I mean, just thinking out loud.
That's, if anybody has any ideas and chime in something like that, drop us a message and we'll consider.
Yeah, I mean, you could even say, you should get Paul McCartney.
You can say that.
We'll do our best. I mean, I don't hold out a lot of hope, but
material issues, we get some surprises sometimes.
We do. And you just got to ask. You have to, whatever you want in life. I mean, this is true. You have to have the gumption to just ask.
Yeah.
The worst anyone can say is no. Hopefully they're not rude about it. You might get ignored, but you don't take that personally. Obviously, I mean, a lot of these people are really busy, and and they may, and sometimes you can't get directly to them. You have to go through their people. And that can be a little bit soul sucking sometimes. But on the other hand, you never know when you're going to get a yes.
Exactly.
If you don't ask, you don't get.
And how you and I, we talk and we're like, well, next week it's going to be you and I playing Stump the Bash and things. And, we don't have anybody scheduled, but we'll get there. And then it turns around, all of a sudden we have, next 3 weeks booked solid with fantastic guests. And you just don't know what's coming down the road. I know we both have things we're working on. If it works out, fantastic. And stay tuned here at Material Issues.
But it's really because of everybody listening that we're able to do this. And again, as I hope we do enough, we thank you very, very much for supporting what we're doing and making comments when you can. And
helping us archive these great stories and these great personalities. That's so much what it's about, is to get this stuff archived and do a great interview with people who really enjoy themselves. And I told you when I was testing, we test with connections and things, and testing with Kandy yesterday. She said, "What am I going to talk about for an hour?" I said, "Don't worry. It's going to go by like that."
They have no idea that we're geeks, and thank you, Gary.
Thank you, Gary.
We're geeks, and we're going to research stuff. So we're not. It's not dependent upon the guest to come up with stuff. We'll come up with questions, and often they'll lead to tangents and other things. And before you know it, the hour or more. And we've had a few that have gone 2 hours. So, depending on how much they've done and how much they want to talk. It's been that way. So anyway, great one, as it has been for a long time. And thank you, Mark, as always, and can't wait for Dave Gregory next week. We're Facebook friends, but I don't know him, so it'll be great to meet him, and everything else. So everyone, have a great rest of your afternoon, evening, or if it's the UK, Thursday morning, and we will see you next time.
Right. Have a safe trip to Boston this weekend, my friend. Love to Rena, and celebrate her dad's life. And
will do.
We'll see everybody next week here at Material Issues with Dave Gregory. Cheers.
Cheers.